Hi, I'm attorney Gregory Dell, joined by attorney Alex Palamara, and we're going to talk about, do you, as a disability claimant, need to sign the authorization form that your disability insurance company almost always requires? And Alex, these forms are different from every single company. And it's a form that is pretty much sent by every company because they want to get records. But as we were discussing before this video, the scope of these forms vary from every single disability carrier, and they're called authorization forms. So talk about the general nature of these forms and why the general broad authorization forms from a disability company can be very dangerous if they're just signed by the claimant.
For sure. There's no doubt that the insurance companies have a right to investigate your claim. I mean, you're making a claim for disability insurance benefits. They're allowed to do their own investigation. You're essentially asking them to pay you thousands upon thousands of dollars per month. Certainly you can prove your own claim by sending in the documentation, and you should prove your own claim by sending in your medical support. But the insurance company has a right to do their own investigation, and sometimes you have to give them the authority to reach out to your treating providers and whatnot to get the information they need to investigate their own claim. However, if you actually look at these forms, these authorizations, some of them are pretty laughable. And for the most part, they're all kind of laughable because they're all pretty much standard forms that each insurance company has written. And they're all kind of similar in the sense that they typically go above and beyond what they need to investigate their claims. I mean, if you look at them, you'll see have a right to your banking information, have a right to if you studied at a university, maybe some of your education information, to your employer's information, reach out to your employer, get information, and some of it just goes above and beyond what they need for their investigation. And the key is not to give them as much authority as that they're asking for.
And so, Alex, they also ask for credit reports. And let's go through some of these items that are in these authorization forms that people may not realize, and understanding the fact that when you're sent a general authorization form from a disability company, you do have the right to exclude certain things and follow that up by telling the disability insurance company, if there's something specific that you want, send me a specific authorization for that item and let me know why you want it. But Alex,
Yeah.
why in a authorization form are disability companies asking for the permission to run credit reports?
I haven't found a good reason for it yet, to be quite frank with you. I don't know. I mean, there may have been one case that I'm not aware of where the person, was lying about their income or lying about something, and maybe it's on their credit report. I have no idea, but I've never had a client of mine who has had to give a credit report for one of their disability insurance claims. Maybe you have, Greg, but I certainly have not. So I don't even know why that authorization or that request for that on that authorization is even on there. And what I simply do is put a line strike right through it. Because imagine the insurance company trying to use that authorization, sending it to one of the credit agency, Experian, whoever, them getting that authorization and seeing a line straight right through credit, the authorization for credit, and seeing us put a line right through it. So they're going to say that and say, we can't get this information. There's a line right through that, what pertains to us. So we can't give you the credit information for this person. So the line strike is very important for these authorizations.
The reason I think, Alex, they want these credit reports, and it's something they just started doing in the last few years because the credit reports are so much more available right now, is they want to look and see if there's any activities that you're engaging in that they don't know about. They want to see, have you bought a car recently? Have you leased a car? Have you refinanced your mortgage? They want to look for license plate information so that they can surveillance you and follow you in your car. They want to look for where your new house is. They want to see if you own other properties that you may have been refinancing. They want to see which are all of your credit cards. And then they want to go, because you are blanketing, giving them permission to get your financial statements, then they're going to contact your credit card companies and try to get copies of all your credit card bills. Well, what are they going to see in your credit card statements? They're going to try to look for, if you're a person who uses your credit card, where are you shopping? Where are you going for entertainment? What are you buying? Did you pay for a trip? So this is the back end plan for the disability company, is to invade your life and look for every single aspect of what you're doing, and using that credit report to as an investigatory tool to see what else is going on. And the reality is they're not entitled to any of that. It has nothing to do with whether or not you have a disability, which they can see through the medical records. Alex, go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead. No, I was going to say, they always try to go outside the scope of their own investigation to try to turn up whatever information they can find to have any sort of justification to deny your claim. That's what they're trying to do here.
So the second thing, which I touched on here, was the fact that they're looking for financial statements, which can be your bank statements, your credit card statements. You should clearly exclude that. Even in litigation, Alex, we don't even let them get bank statements. And here it's just the investigatory stage. I would never want anyone having access to my, bank statements with an unknown purpose, obviously. So that's a big deal right there. The other thing, Alex, which you touched upon, which I want you to explain, is why should you limit their exposure to speak to any one of your former, your employers or employees in that form?
Because again, it's outside the scope. They're limited to what information they need. I mean, first and foremost, they don't really need access or an authorization to get to your employer. Typically under most group disability insurance policies, and most people have these group policies where they have this insurance through their employer. The fact they work for Bank of America or whoever it may be, a big corporation, that's why they have these policies. So under most group policies, the employer is the administrator of the policy. So the insurance company can actually reach out to the employer and say, hey, listen, John Smith is applying for benefits. We need information. When was his hire date? When was his last day of work? What were his earnings? They can get that information from the administrator, the employer anyway. So they don't really need authorization. So they ask for this authorization for your employer to go above and beyond what they need. And who even knows why they would need your employee personnel file? And again, they're going to try to find information in there to deny the claim. It's kind of a BS thing that they do. And they should really just be looking at your medical records. Well, first off, making sure that you are an insured person under the policy and whether the medical records prove that you are disabled under the terms of the policy. Beyond that, it's pretty limited what they need. Sometimes there's some contingencies where they might want to see your earnings. Maybe you have more than one job. So there could be some certain instances where we have to give them more information. But for the most part, every claim is pretty similar. But I like to line straight through authorizations, but you can't, if you're not represented by counsel, or if you don't have experience doing disability insurance claims, you can't just go willy-nilly start crossing out everything, because there might be something they're allowed to have access to. So that means you have to speak to someone with experience in dealing with these type of claims, because maybe there's something that you don't realize. So you can't just go willy-nilly crossing out everything, but some information on these authorizations should definitely be excluded and have to be struck out, or at least partially excluded at the very least.
Right, and the other thing with former employers is that you don't want them to be able to talk to former employees, because you may not want everyone at your company knowing that you had some kind of medical issue. You may have left that job and people don't know that you left for a medical reason. So what they'll do is call someone and be like, oh, so and so we found out was your coworker, but they had no idea that you had whatever medical condition. And maybe they didn't know because you were able to just stick it out long enough without them knowing. It's not uncommon that someone leaves work for disability and a coworker was unaware of the person's, functional restrictions and limitations, because that person continued to work until they thought that they could no longer do the job. So it's very common scenario that a coworker doesn't know what's going on. But the disability insurance company, without, if you give them blanket authorization, they might send an investigator down to your former job and start talking to people. And you don't want that, because the world doesn't need to know what your medical condition is, and that will happen if other people start talking. So you want to watch out for that as well. And then, Alex, we talk about limiting the scope of the medical records. Certainly, look, the disability company can get the medical records, but the burden is actually on the claimant to present the medical records to the disability company. And there may be certain things there that may not be relevant at all to your disability company, and you want to know what they're getting. And when you send them a general medical authorization without specifying which doctors they're getting records from, you have no control. So technically, you have the right to say to the disability company, look, I have no objection to you getting my medical records, but if I send you a general medical release form, I don't know who you're talking to or who you're not talking to. So if you want records from a specific doctor and you want to get them on your own because you don't trust me to send them to you, then send me a specific medical authorization for that particular doctor And if I think it's a reasonable request, then I'll sign it. So, it's that easy. But to give the disability carrier complete carte blanche control over going to any doctor that they want about you is not appropriate in my opinion, and also can result in them getting things you may not want them to have, or not getting things because you don't know what they asked for or didn't ask for. So
I mean, they could get records from a doctor that has nothing to do with your disabling condition. And once they get those records, maybe it's some sort of embarrassing record or something you just don't want other people to know. Maybe you suffered from something you don't want other people to know. You still have a right to privacy when you make a disability insurance claim. But if they get those records, and it's, again, if it's a group policy governed by ERISA and they get those records and they deny your claim and your appeal is denied, ultimately all those files are going to be entered into the federal court system. I mean, sometimes you can limit the availability of those files being seen by the general public, but that could be in the part of the claim file that's presented to the judge, and it's part of the federal record at that point. So there's other reasons why you want to hide it from them, because maybe you don't want public access to that information. You have a right to privacy even if you're claiming a disability insurance claim.
Right, and then Alex, also they ask for tax returns, which really you don't need to give them authorization to go to the IRS. I mean, these giant companies are getting these blank authorizations, and you don't know who from the company is going to be touching that authorization, and now they're starting to send out notification to the IRS requesting tax returns. If you have the tax returns, you send them. They don't have to have that form, and if they have questions on the validity of whether or not those tax returns are valid or not, then they can raise them. But otherwise, they're making the assumption that by you sending them to them, they're not valid, and inherently telling you that you're sending us fraudulent information. So there's areas where you can fight back and protect yourself. I would err on the side of caution with the medical forms, because that's the end-all be-all. But don't leave yourself open to these general authorizations. Always, you can always feel free to call Alex or myself or any of our lawyers. We'll review the authorization. No matter what stage your claim is at, we're always willing to provide you with a free initial consultation to discuss your claim. This is just one area of a disability claim, which is the authorization form. There's so many more forms and claimant statements, attending physician statements, and lots of different areas of your disability claim that you should be aware of. We encourage you to search through our website, search by your company or your medical condition or your occupation, and you're going to find a lot of helpful information. We really want our clients, our claimants, we want all disability claimants to be really well educated about this disability process, and we've built a whole disability insurance insights community where you can leave information, you can reviews about your company, you can ask us questions, our lawyers are going to answer them, and you can read reviews of cases that we've wrote so that you can be educated. And by being educated about your company and this process, you're going to be in the best position to keep your benefits being paid or get approved if you're just in the beginning stages of filing for disability. So no matter where you are in the country, all of our lawyers are available to assist you. We'll be here when you need us, and we look forward to speaking with you in the future.